We have a first from Councillor Spies. Second from Councillor Plunkett. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the memorandum of the May 7th, 2018 regular Town Council meeting is approved by a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Do I have any requests to speak, Amy?
No, there are no requests to speak.
Okay. And we have no old business. So going on to new business. First up is a consideration of an additional appropriation resolution of $97,500 from the Food and Beverage Fund, Boys and Girls Club Parking Lot Assistance. This is a public hearing. Mayor Hawk or Mr. Mitro, would one of you like to speak on this?
Thank you. This is an additional appropriation, as you noted, from the Food and Beverage Fund. It is a request from the Boys and Girls Club, specifically Z West, for assistance in repaving and repairing their facilities parking lot. As you can probably tell if you've been out there, the parking lot is in pretty sad shape. And as a part of Food and Beverage Funds, we do donate to charitable non-for-profits for assistance in various projects. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And really quick, I do have proof of publication. I will open the public hearing. If any members from the public would like to come up. Okay, I will close the public hearing. Any questions for Mr. Mitro on this?
Yeah, and if you could make it clear on this, Josh was kind enough to talk to me about this. I mean, I think it's important that we let the public know that why we're doing this, because I've got people complaining to me all day about the streets in this town, and we're spending $100,000 here on paving. I think we need to get behind the story here and let people know that we just didn't arbitrarily decide to do this, right? We're doing this to make amends for the tax issue with the food, with the restaurants that are in Whitestown that paid tax to us that shouldn't have paid tax to us. Is that right? I think, Josh, you called me on this, so I think
Since you brought it up and there's no media in the room, yes, that's exactly what it's for.
What?
That's exactly what it's for.
It would be nice if we collected some $300,000 in taxes that we weren't supposed to collect.
One of the things that we did in working with the Department of Revenue is we asked, and they have agreed, that if we were to do a project that benefited everyone in Boone County, a non-for-profit, Whitestown as well as Zionsville, would that work in lieu of the actual having to pay back or having to have any money withheld from that money? And the Department of Revenue did agree with that. Heather was very kind to work with us and work with the department on that. So that is why this has come to you at such a large amount, but also it's helping a very worthy cause.
I'm all for the worthy cause, but that's, I mean, I don't know if we're going to, I don't see any newspaper people here, but I think, I've got to explain to my constituents why we're spending $100,000 on a blacktop and not on their roads. And I need to, it would be nice if we could somehow publicly get this information out there that that we actually, in cooperation with Whitestown, were able to come up with a way where we found a way to use this money in a very worthy cause, but also that we were, required to do this. And this is not coming out of the blacktop money that would have gone to the community or given us an opportunity to use the, additional funds available to the community to do more blacktop in the city, because I hear about it all the time, and this is one where I know somebody's going to ask me about this. So
I think you have explained it almost as well, if not better than I could.
So is the net idea that we essentially, again, with Whitestown's cooperation, this is...
It's really the state's cooperation, not Whitestown. I mean, we're doing this, it benefits Whitestown as well as us, but it was really the state that kind of we broached this topic with.
I could also add some additional context because I've been working with the state for now several months. I think a couple of really important things. So the way that food and beverage tax is collected at the state is done by where a business actually signs up. And so just to clarify, it wasn't anything that the town of Zionsville did to take this money. We get a check from the state they tell us who is in or out. And for months, actually, Amy had been working with the state to try to get a clarification of who they were collecting for on our behalf. So we now have, I think, a really good system in place with the state where we're getting more periodic reports. And so that gives Amy and her team an opportunity to sort of eyeball the list and to catch those earlier. It's also not uncommon that this is happening across the state, particularly where there are borderline communities that are both collecting the tax and or a county that's also collecting the tax. So we actually to date have already done projects over the last, it was a 9-year period of time by which some of those businesses were remitting taxes on behalf of the town of Zionsville to the state. Not all of them, but a handful. And so we actually, through that course of time, have also done a number of different projects, almost to the same amount that we collected for the benefit of the community. I think one thing we wanted to do, and importantly, the state didn't say do this for this particular organization, but they did say that they would like to sort of settle up with us so that we weren't writing a check back out to the state. So in doing that, we looked at the community projects that were available to us and said this would be a good opportunity that benefits both kids in Zionsville as well as kids in Whitestown and other places within the county. And we're really working to try to figure out, and I think all of you would probably agree, how to do this quickly so that we can come to some sort of terms with the state so that we're done with this. Because we'll have a 3-year period of time in which we're 6 months now into, by which the state has to allow taxpayers the opportunity to get a refund should they present a claim to the department. And that would come out of any future distributions that we might have. So far it's been $50 or less, $58, I think. So it's been a fairly small amount of constituents who've actually made a claim. But because leadership changes a lot within the state agencies, we really wanted to find some resolution quickly so that we weren't restarting a conversation with the new director, 6 months down the road or whatever that might be. So I just wanted to clarify, they didn't ask for this specific project, but they suggested to us that we should look at community projects.
So we've got a clean state with the state. They're not going to come back and ask
Correct.
for $300,000.
That's exactly right, yeah. That's what, we thought if we did it more quickly, we would better benefit the citizens here instead of writing a check back to the state and going into the state's general fund and us not seeing a penny of that or any of our constituents. I think that's maybe the best story to tell.
That's a good job, thanks.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, we had to ensure that the project positively affected both communities. We couldn't just find something in Zionsville. It had to really affect both Whitestown and...
Yeah, really just they wanted to see a benefit for the county, for benefit for all the communities. And since that's a really nice place where we have a lot of kids from Whitestown, a lot of kids from Zionsville, a lot of kids from the county, everybody sort of goes there, seemed like a good opportunity. And we've also given them, we have a history of giving them food and beverage funds in the past, so this is not a new, group that we've been working with.
I mean, not to go down a rabbit's hole of food and beverage, but if there were restaurants that were accidentally collecting, with the list you receive, are you able to spot check restaurants that may accidentally not be collecting that should be for Zionsville?
Yes, and there were I think 5 that were not collecting, and those have been rectified now too. But I now get a regular report, so I can keep checking those.
Thank you. Any questions for Deputy Mayor Mitro or Heather? Or I would take a motion on this matter as well.
So moved.
Got a first from Councilor Hopper, second from Councilor Schuler. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, resolution number 2018-06 passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Next up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance establishing the Hampshire Road Fund. This is a first reading. This is ordinance number 2018-05. Mr. Lance.
Good Morning. Back in around 2006, when the Hampshire subdivision was finally approved, they had a commitment to improve off-site roads, specifically County Road 400 and County Road 500, where they had to widen them in the areas off-site from their project on over to County Road 875. The time has come. We expect to receive those monies yet this month, so we are creating a fund into which we may deposit those funds and then use them for their stated purpose. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think this applies to all the different ordinances that we're looking at for this particular council meeting, but we're establishing individual specific funds for individual specific projects. And
It is only because they have a unique revenue source. If you would happen to commingle these funds, the commitment was to benefit the Hampshire subdivision in that area. This is to keep it easily trackable so that we can track those funds and verify and prove that they were spent specifically on the projects for which they were intended.
Is this for reporting purposes or accounting purposes?
Both.
And are these finite timeline?
Yes, when these funds are expended, these funds can be dissolved, sent away, whatever, but this is just tracking until all the funds have been expended.
Would these funds then cease to exist?
We will.
Set out, would we have to take an ordinance to close them? What's the
I
procedure?
don't know about dissolving the ordinance, but we will spend 100% of all these funds that we receive. So I don't ever recall deleting a fund. I think you can just delete it.
Yeah, it is by ordinance, and we have done that before with the Carter Fund, I think. But yeah, we would do another ordinance.
I'm just wondering why we don't just create a line item to absorb this within the general fund versus having all these different funds allocated. I understand the need for the administrative process of separating the monies. I'm just kind of concerned about creating individual funds per project. I don't recall this happening in this kind of volume before.
No, because we've never encountered these situations before. All of these funds involve specific entities giving the town money for a specific and stated purpose. When you go back 5 years, if you're ever audited, if you're ever asked to recap the transactions, having them in a standalone fund makes it immensely more trackable than lumping it into with a $3.5 million motor vehicle highway fund. So because these are being given by private individuals for a very specific purpose, we felt it best to establish a fund that we are then accountable to these people from whom we receive the money.
Yeah, and I would tell you from my, as a finance guy with a lot of experience going through audits like this is the cleanest way to do that, the best paper trail. It just makes it a lot easier. Again, when somebody comes in from the outside to audit you, this is the way to go, which is, it really is. It's a little extra work, I agree, it's a little extra work, but it really makes it makes Lance's and Amy's job a whole lot easier, and it makes the whole government agency here look very responsible, so.
They're coming from the outside sources. No town money is going to be spent on this, correct?
The projects, all these projects will probably not be enough to fund the entire project. The contribution, this is a contribution from 2006. The funding is held since 2006. Things are more expensive than they were 12 years ago.
So we can expect in the near future to get an ordinance to move money over to this fund?
Once we start receiving monies into these funds, we will have a additional appropriation resolution for each fund. So there'll be three more actions on each, one action on each of the funds.
My concern leads more to earmarking in the future for funding than anything else, but I appreciate the need for the funds and the auditing efficiency of it. So that's it. I'm good. Thank you.
Why did it take so long to do this?
Because the project never got built, this is the first year that we're actually seeing homes and residences established in Hampshire.
Any other questions? Take a motion to introduce on first reading. Got a first from Councilor Schuler. Second from Councilor Spees. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion introduced on first reading passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Mr. Lance, staying up there, we've got a consideration of an ordinance establishing the Water Supply Main Loop Fund. This is a first reading.
This This fund is associated with the Zionsville Road project, which is going to begin construction very soon. In simplest terms, a new subdivision, Von Terra, brought water from the south. A new subdivision, Inglenook, brought water from the north. In a three-way split, both subdivisions in the town are sharing that cost in between to loop the water main. These amounts to be contributed were established as part of negotiations with the fire protection ordinance several years ago at the establishment or the approval of each subdivision. Now that we have a project, we are going to be receiving these funds from the developers. Same story as I just kind of went through, and this is to fund the water line on Zionsville Road.
Any questions, Tom?
Cost, or do we have to?
So it was an established prorated split. There's what 55,000, I believe, from Inglenook, about 111,000 from Von Terra, and I think the town's portion was about $80,000.
Other questions? All right. I will make a motion, introduce on first reading. Do I have a second? A second from Councilor Suarez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion introduced on first reading passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Next up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance establishing the Inglenook Entrance Fund. This is a first reading. This is ordinance number 2018-07. Mr. Lance, you're popular.
What a way to start a Monday, eh? Again, associated with the Zionsville Road project, with the timing of the Inglenook subdivision, it made little sense to anyone that they build an intersection, or excuse me, an entrance into their subdivision, really before they even had any homes in there, only to have it torn out about a year later and redone because the alignment of Zionsville Road is going to change drastically. So very much like the water line, we worked through them, developed an estimate, and an accepted, agreed upon price that they would have invested in their entrance, and they've just agreed to pay that amount to the town, and we take care of it with our Zionsville Road project. This one was so close that it would probably negligible if we ever anticipate something lasting a dozen years, like Hampshire did. Yeah, we might want to take a look at that. But certainly if things are going to languish for more than a couple of years, it might be wise to put in an escalation clause.
I think just to piggyback on Councilor Speed's question, I think that knowing that nobody expected Hampshire to be on stand, on hold for 12 years. So knowing now in retrospect that in the initiation of that project, nobody expected that, but had we put in that clause, we probably would have been looking at a different financial situation today.
Right.
I think that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, I think what has happened also, Councilor Spies, is that the Planning Commission now, I think we have sunset rules in there. I don't know if Wayne's here. He would confirm that. So you won't have a open plan for 10 years anymore. There's a sunset clause. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anybody knows.
3 years, I believe.
So, thank you, Wayne. So that kind of solves the problem without having to document it.
Any other questions, or take a motion on this?
Move to approve.
I've got a first from Councilor Spies. Second from Councilor Suarez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion introduced on first reading passes with a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Last for new business, we've got a consideration of a transfer resolution to transfer $104,363 from the sewer operating fund to the trash fund. This is resolution number 2018-07. Mr. Mitro.
I will briefly introduce this. If you have any more detailed questions, Mark Adam from Crow Horwath is here. This transfer resolution looks to balance, if you will, the books. Amy, in doing her very good monthly checks of all the funds, was finding that our sewer, or actually our trash fund, was running in the negative. And as you know, that is a money in, money out. We get paid for the trash service, and that money immediately is then moved or transferred over to Ray's. In looking at the cause of that negative fund, we found that a number of people literally pay for the entire year. They don't pay monthly. And in those cases, that was being automatically put into the sewer operating fund rather than the trash fund. So what was happening is that portion of the money that was the trash bill was actually going in the wrong place. It was going in the sewer operating fund. So that was over time causing that fund to run negative. So Crow did a study to look at the number of individuals that were paying yearly and that amount. And this amount will, if you will, balance the books. At the same time, Amy's instituted a change so that we make sure for those people who are paying for multiple months or for the year that we do an accounting of that so that the money goes into the appropriate two funds. This is not new money. It's just putting the money where it should have been in the first place.
Questions for Deputy Mayor Mitro or Mr. Adam?
Thank you, Amy. Yes.
Is there any way to, so this is the trash, the portion of the trash bill or the utility bill that goes towards trash pickup?
Correct. Correct.
Is that somebody can pay the whole trash bill up front at the beginning of the year or whenever they paid it? Is there?
They do. You'd be surprised. And they also, the people that will pay the entire sewer bill for the year.
Value of money, they don't understand it.
Did they get a break when they do that?
And they still do it.
Yeah.
Just don't have to concern yourself with it paying every month. That's actually, yeah.
Any other questions or take a motion on this one? You got a first from Councilor Suarez to approve. Second from Councilor Schuler. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, well, that says motion to adjourn. That's not correct. The resolution is approved by a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Any other matters councilors may have? Okay, I take a motion to adjourn. Got a first from Councilor Hopper. Second from Councilor Suarez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion to adjourn approved by a vote of 6 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular Town Council meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 4th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. in the Zionsville Town Hall Council Chambers. Meeting adjourned.